All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the final training in our Midlands Gives series. Today is donor retention, retaining donors past Midlands Gives, with our wonderful advancement associate, Kayla King, who I will uh, hand this over to in just a moment, but I wanted to make sure to do just a few housekeeping things as we go through. So we asked participants to stay muted during the presentation today. This is going to help with quality of sound. However, there will be engagement sections during the presentation, so we do ask be ready to unmute when those do come through. And then as we go, please do place any questions you have in the chat. We will have a portion at the very end of the presentation today to do like a formal Q&A, but we will answer as we go. All right. And so closed captions are available. You can put those as active using the bar at the very bottom of your screen. And then last but certainly not least, the session today will be recorded and it will become available on the Midlands Gives website under the trainings. So without further ado, I will go ahead and hand it over to Kayla King.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Amber. I'm going to start sharing my screen so you all can see my presentation. All right, Amber, how we looking?
All right, we're seeing the notes page.
Oh. Stop sharing. Okay. Let's share that.
Perfect. Now we see the slides.
Are we still seeing the slides?
We're seeing the slides now, not the
Okay.
notes page.
Okay, perfect. Well, like Amber mentioned, my name is Kayla King, and I am the Advancement Associate here at the Foundation. And my primary responsibility at the Foundation is to oversee and manage the Foundation's stewardship and engagement program. So I'm so excited to be talking with you all today about donor retention and how to just engage your donors post Midlands Gives. But before I get started, Amber, I'm going to need your help to manage the chat. Just drop in the chat what organization you're representing just to see who's all on the call with us so we can get connected with each other as well too. Okay, I see Boy Scouts, Noma Steam, Girl Get Up Society, Birthright of Columbia, a lot of great organizations doing great work in the community. Yes, love to see it. Sister Care, First Thursdays on May, Children's Trust of South Carolina, Indian Waters Council. Yes. Well, thank you all so much for being here and taking the time out to do this training with me. So I want to first get started on why is it important to strengthen relationships with current donors? So why do we do it? Plain and simple, it is the right thing to do. Your donors are people who are investing time and money and resources into your organization. So we want to make sure that we maintain and keep a relationship with them as well too. Also, retaining current donors is a lot easier than attracting new donors. Again, current donors are people who are familiar with your organization, they know your work, and more importantly, they can attest to who you are as a leader within your organization. So it's important that we continue to upkeep that relationship so they can keep knowing about the good things that you all are doing within your organization. And also too, to build a sustainable organization. I'm sure we all are here because we want long-term giving in our organization. We want our organizations to last past our lifetimes, right? In order to do that, we have to keep our donors engaged as well too, because they're going to help with the sustainability of our organizations, right? So when we're talking about donors within our organization, right, we want to pay attention to how you and your organization talks about your donors, right? So if you're giving off the tone that you appreciate your donors and that you need your donors to continue to do the work that you're doing, that message is going to translate externally. So we want to be very mindful of how we're communicating about our donors internally because that message will translate externally, right? And also think about if you were a donor, if you donated your time, your money, your resources to an organization, how would you like to be treated? You know, at the end of the day, these are people. So we want to make sure we're treating people like people. Right. So one of the beautiful benefits about Midlands Gives is when your donor checks out at the checkout page, they will receive a tax letter from our organization, which means you do not have to give them an additional tax letter. Your job at that point is to give them a thank you note. There have been times where donors have called and say, "Hey, I received a tax letter, but I did not receive a thank you note from this organization. What's going on?" So just make sure that you are thanking your donors once you see they have contributed to your Midlands Gives profile and just in general as well too. One rule of thumb that we like to use at the foundation is personalized handwritten thank you notes. I think once you add a personal touch, it just makes the connection more meaningful and more personal. And donors like that. They like to see that you actually care about them, about the person and like their resources outside of them just providing, monetary support. So make sure you're establishing and building that personal relationship as well too. Also too, a big thing that donors love to see is how their contribution will contribute to your organization as well too. So one thing, and we're going to talk about this in a few moments on your Midlands Gives profile, if you have a certain amount that you're trying to raise, make sure you include how each dollar amount will contribute to that overall goal. Donors love seeing that. Also, with donors who are familiar and have donated to your organization, calls from, board members, the executive director, emails, notes, create a report with your for your donors so they can see how their funds have contributed overall to your organization throughout the fiscal year and share stories of impact and personal testimonies. Again, donors love to feel connected to your mission. They want to know what's going on. That's why they're invested. So give them what they're asking for, what they're looking for. Um, yeah, so just make sure you're providing tangible examples, your storytelling, and just highlighting the overall mission and purpose of your organization. So as I mentioned, the importance of your Midlands Gives profile for your donors. Make sure you have updated contact information so they can know who to contact. They can know what website to go on to look at your organization. Make sure you keep your mission statement short and concise. They want to get right to the point, see exactly what your organization is about. So making sure you're effective yet concise. What does your organization plan to do with the money raised through Midlands Gives? Again, make sure you list out how each dollar amount will contribute and help your organization. Um, Also, donors can sign up for recurring donations to your organization at checkout. So if you would like to encourage your donors to do that, do so because again, that helps create the sustainability of your organization as well too. So a big thing that you all have access to through your Millions Gives profile is you are able to track your donors' information. So donation amount, how frequent they donate, and also engagement history. So one thing that I encourage you all to do is to brainstorm and come up with the intentional plan for each group of donors. For example, something that we like to do at the foundation, if we have donors who give $10 or more, they're all getting a personalized thank you note. And we try to do that within a week's turnaround time of the donation. And also, this is a great way to engage your board as well, too. Maybe during a board meeting, you can assign each board member a set amount of thank you cards to write to your donors as well, too. Another example for donors who give at the 1,000 level and up, they also should receive a thank you note, possibly a personal phone call from the ED or the board chair, and then also maybe a consumable in the mail. Because we represent the 11 counties in the Midlands, something that we do, and we'll touch base on this later in the presentation, is we like to send consumables that are located within the 11 counties in the Midlands to tie it back to our overall mission. Another tip is knowing your donor's preferred method of contact. Some donors do not like to be called. We have some donors that said, please do not call me. Okay, we won't call you at all. We have some that do not like email. We won't email you. So it's important to know your donor's preferred method of contact because it shows that you're listening, you're attentive, and that you care about them as well too. Also, some donors, things happen, life gets busy, so sometimes priorities shift. And when you see that happening, tracking their engagement history, send a reconnection email, said, hey, look at what we've been doing over this past year at our organization. Thanks to donors like you to kind of get that relationship back up and running and to continue building that connection. So when it comes to attracting new donors, make small attainable goals to reach out to someone on your list of donors once a month or quarterly. It could be a phone call, a handwritten note, email. I would say use your best judgment. Like if you send a donor an email maybe last month and they haven't follow up, give it a time. Because when it comes to donor retention and attracting new donors, we're playing the long game. So just remember that. Remember to be patient with your donors as well too. Offer for potential donors to sign up for your organization's newsletter. That way they can start to get familiar with the work you're doing and become your organization can become more visible to them. Also, utilize your organization's network, your board members, past donors, volunteers. People talk. Word of mouth is a real thing. So if you have members who are already involved in your organization that can attest for you and advocate for you, utilize that network because you'd be surprised of the connections and relationships that will come out of that. So some additional ideas for stewarding your current donors and attracting new donors. Invite donors to your site so they can see the work in action. Again, donors love to know where their dollars are going. So I feel like a personal site visit invitation will be a great way for them to see exactly how your organization is using the funds. If you have events at your organizations, recognize your donors at the event only if they are okay with being publicly recognized. That goes back to my point with knowing how your donors prefer to be stewarded in their contact method. Some donors prefer to be anonymous. So if you have an anonymous donor, do not list them or recognize them at any event because they prefer to be anonymous. And also engage your board members to meet with your donors as well too. So I have a scenario for you all that I'm going to read, and I would love for you all to give, at the end of the scenario, to give feedback on what the organization could have done differently in this scenario. Hope Haven's fundraising team was excited when James Reynolds attended their annual gala. He had a reputation for making six-figure donations to causes he cared about. Recognizing this, the executive director and board members focused their efforts on impressing him. During the gala, James was given exclusive attention seated at the VIP table, publicly acknowledged multiple times, and personally escorted by the executive director. The organization's focus on securing his potential gift led them to neglect longtime donors, including a couple who had been giving $10,000 annually for over a decade. Later that week, Hope Haven's team arranged a private lunch with James. Instead of building a relationship, they immediately launched into an aggressive fundraising pitch outlining specific donation amounts they hoped he would contribute. James, who preferred getting to know an organization before committing, felt pressured and put off by the transactional nature of the conversation. He politely declined, saying he needed more time to consider. Not only did James walk away without donating, but the longtime donors who felt ignored at the gala quietly stopped their support. They redirected their annual gifts to another shelter that had consistently made them feel valued. What could have Hope Havens done differently to avoid this situation? And feel free to come off your mic, feel free to drop it in the chat, but I'm curious to know your thoughts.
James Cooper with Sister Care. You can hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
It sounds like if I heard everything right, that they rushed to get another to get the same sponsor to sponsor again, and they could have had that gathering to value all of the donors that
Mhm.
have given in a certain period of time and a certain amount. and then at the same time give an update as to what the Hope Haven is doing with the funds, so that that new donor would have heard about the work that they've been
Mhm.
doing and been included with all the other donors that have been donating previously, and they
Exactly.
rushed to get more.
Yep, exactly.
If I heard you right.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
We had a few entries in the chat.
Okay.
We had Constance. Um, Curenton provided equal amount of attention to all donors. And then Linda Daniel, everyone needs to feel special.
Exactly. So with this organization, they kind of directed their attention to this one person who they assumed, never make assumption with donors, that they would get a big gift from, and led them to neglect their other donors. The $1 gift is the same amount of importance of a $10,000 gift, because at the end of the day, these people are still donating their resource to you all. Also, instead of building a relationship, they just immediately went into the ask. When it comes to donors retention, you want to make sure you are building relationship. Again, this is the long game. Before they can commit to your organization, they need to know your organization, know what your organization is about, know what you are about as a leader as in your organization as well too. Thank you all for participating in my first scenario. So we have another scenario. This is going to be an engaging conversation. Scenario one, a foundation donates $2,500,000 to a nonprofit addressing food insecurity. Instead of a personalized thank you, they receive a generic form letter. What are some potential consequences of the nonprofit just giving the foundation a generic form letter rather than a personalized thank you? What are some potential consequences that can come of that?
Well, this is Dana from First Thursday. I feel like if they get the generic letter, then it's a similar situation that happened with the previous scenario where maybe they won't feel as appreciated or as important. And $250,000 is so much money. Almost feel like they should be thanked in person, rather
Mhm.
than just given a letter.
Yes, yes. I agree as well, Dana. Anybody else? I see the chat is going.
Yes, we have with Constance. I agree the donor could feel like their funds were not appreciated. And then Mimi stated it's more transactional than relational.
Exactly. All great responses. Again, like Dana mentioned, $250,000 is a lot of money. I know if I gave $250,000, I would like a person to contact me, reach out to me, just let me know, hey, thank you, that they even received the money, you know? And also like to know what is going to happen with this $250,000. So yes, that can turn off the donor, because again, it just feels very transactional. So scenario two. A donor attends a gala and makes a significant donation at the event. The nonprofit assumes that because they interacted in person, a follow-up isn't necessary. What are some potential consequences of this scenario?
This is LaRushla from the humanities. I think that a follow-up is always necessary so that stay in touch and continue building that relationship. But a potential consequence is that if that person doesn't feel engaged, they may not continue to engage with the organization.
Yes, great point.
This is Gail with Sumter Senior Services, and I agree. I feel like, excuse me, if they do not follow up, then that might be the last time that donor contributes to that organization.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you, Gail. Um, like I mentioned before, never assume with donors. The follow-up is always necessary, especially if they took the time to come out to your event, invested in your event as well too. So make sure you're following up and continue to build and maintain those relationships that are already there. Okay, my next scenario. Like I mentioned before, we are playing the long game. So in this scenario, for over 20 years, Margaret Davis, a retired school teacher, faithfully donated $25 each month to Bright Futures, a nonprofit dedicated to providing scholarships for underprivileged students. Despite her modest contributions, the organization always made her feel valued. Every year, Margaret received a handwritten thank you note from a scholarship recipient, along with a personal message from the executive director. On her birthday, she will receive a small token of appreciation, a bookmark, a photo of a student she had helped, or a simple email acknowledging her loyalty. Whenever she attended Bright Future's annual fundraising events, staff members personally thanked her and made sure she knew how much her support meant, regardless of the amount. When Margaret turned 25, she decided to leave a lasting impact. She had quietly saved over the years and deeply moved by the gratitude and recognition she had received. She informed Bright Futures that she would be making a $250,000 donation to establish a permanent scholarship fund in her name. The organization was overwhelmed with gratitude and held a small ceremony to honor her generosity. Margaret expressed how much it meant to her that even when her gifts were small, she was never overlooked. She said, I gave what I could, and you made me feel like $1 million donor long before I was ever one. Because of Margaret's lifelong support and the organization's commitment to appreciating every donor, her legacy would now continue, ensuring that generations of students could pursue higher education in her name. So with that, again, remember the long game. Treat your donors, the ones who donate $10, $15, $20, the same as you would treat a donor who donates 100,000, $1 million, because you never know. Again, you're building that relationship, and donors, they're watching how you treat them with their funds as well too. And with this situation, this organization stewarded Margaret well, and because of that, she was impressed and she left a lasting impact. And that's what we want. We want sustainability. We want our donors to contribute to our organization's sustainability as well too, and feel like they can trust us as well too with their dollars. So now we're going to move over to some stewardship and engagement strategies, and I have provided examples to some strategies that we do at the foundation. So at the foundation, we like to steward our donors kind of in groups. So one thing that we do for all our fund holders is we do a Valentine's Day cards. It's very low cost. Each staff is assigned a stack of Valentine's Day cards, and we just write personal notes just saying, thinking of you, thank you for your impact, thank you for contributing to our organization. And we send this out within the first week of February, just with the timing, you know, the holidays are over. And we feel like we're not bombarding people with mail. So we thought this would be a perfect time. And then we also have a fund holder appreciation event as well too, just to tell our fund holders thank you and that we appreciate them. And we include snacks, recycle, and mingling. It's also opportunity for them to connect each other as well too, because when they connect, the possibilities are endless about the dollars that they could donate to any organization as well too, to try to encourage collaborative philanthropy.
So,
So, and
Kayla, I was
yes.
going to say we have a great question in the chat just
Okay.
before we continue on. The question is from Dana Browery. She says, what do you do if your organization doesn't have great records from years past? So in order to do wonderful things like this, so it's hard for us to say that a donor has donated for 10 years in a row or stats like that. Are there any suggestions?
I think for a situation like that, it's always good to reevaluate what hasn't worked and try something new as well too. That's something we've had to done in the past too. So before we did, I'll talk about this in the next slide, but before with our Legacy Society members, we had a legacy luncheon, and we noticed that the staff effort and return on investment, it was just not worth it. So we shifted gears and realized like this is an older crowd, you know, it's post-COVID. People still aren't really the most comfortable with attending personal events. What can we do to make sure that we're still connected and engaging with these fund holders? So we decided to shift to mailing consumables. We tested it out the first year and we got positive feedback. So that's just something we've been doing constantly and it's worked out really well. So I would suggest trying something new and see the feedback that you receive on it. And if it works, keep it going. I hope that answered your question. All right, I'm going to talk about our next group. So our nonprofit fund holders. So our investment firm, formerly Vanguard, but now Mercer, they come to visit us either in January or in April. And while they are here, we ask them to present to our nonprofit fund holders so they can talk about, the current market, and nonprofits can learn about what to come of this market as well too. So we provide bagels and coffees, and it's just a nice way for our nonprofit fund holders to connect as well too, to talk about what's going on within their agency, how they can connect with each other, how they can help each other as well too. And I will also plug in, if you are signed up for the nonprofit newsletter, you would have seen an ad about the upcoming Mercer event that is happening this month. So if you have not registered, please make sure you register. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and I will make sure I get you the information. All right, so also something we like to do for our new fund holders, so those are fund holders who have created fund within the past fiscal year, we like to send them a welcome to the fund holder family to let them know, like, thank you so much for, contributing your dollars to our organization. The past couple of years, we have done cookies made by a local baker named Kia Brown. She is the owner of this sweet shop. This past year, because we had a new CEO transition, we thought it would be a really great opportunity to include a welcome Georgia, so our new fund holders can get to know about our new leader. Also, we include a handwritten personal note as well in that box as well too, just to let them know, thank you so much. If you have any questions, please let us know. We are here to support you as well too. Also too, I'll talk about this in the next slide. And like I mentioned, our legacy society group. So these are fund holders, donors who have contributed some form of their estate to the foundation upon their passing. So each April we mail them a consumable just to say thanks and let them know that we're thinking of them. And this is a great way that we engage with our other departments. So sometimes we'll have the community investment team, if they have scholarship data from the past year, we'll include a handout about that. We recently reactivated our 1SC fund. So pulling data from that as well to include as well too. And sometimes we like to include our interns because we realize this is an older crowd. They love the young people. They love to know what young people are doing. So we'll include a highlight of our interns as well too. And these are mailed in April. And again, these are consumables that we find within the 11 counties that we serve in the Midlands. So I'm curious to know, what are some examples of donor stewardship programs that you currently do at your organization? Feel free to come off the mic or drop in the chat as well too.
Okay, so we have one entry in the chat so far. So Dana Browery, she says, we have the kids write notes or draw pictures. We do a holiday box every year for bigger donors. Tons and tons of handwritten notes and thank you cards.
Oh, I love that, especially having the kids write the thank you notes. Like, I feel like that's just so personal. It adds like a really nice touch. I love that.
Brandon Stukes says, we plan on doing a dinner this year. Last year we went out and did thank you cards.
I love that. I love that.
James Cooper says thank you notes, signage at events, and then listed in the newsletter and the website.
Yes, yes. You can never go wrong with telling someone thank you.
But Constance with personalized notes from the youth and recognition at our annual kickback.
Well, thank you all for sharing. It sounds like you all have some wonderful programs going on at your organization. So, real quick before I close out my training, I would like to plug in our nonprofit fund option here at the foundation. The current minimum for the fund is $50,000. And with this fund, it allows to take the administrative load off of you all. All the funds will go strictly back to your nonprofit organization, and we handle the administrative work on the back end. Um, You'll receive guidance from our CCF team, and then also pooled investments can be with outside financial management as well too. So like I mentioned, we have our investment firm, Mercer, formerly Vanguard. They are the one who manages the investment pool. And also it reduces just the administrative burden off of you all as well too. So we have two options with the nonprofit funds. We have an endowed nonprofit fund and we have a non-endowed nonprofit fund. So for the endowed nonprofit fund, let's just say example, each fiscal year you need a set amount to come to your organization. You can endow it and each year you'll get that spendable allocation like clockwork each July that will just go to your organization. Or a non-endowed fund if you have, a capital project, a building campaign, and you just need to use all the money in the fund at one time, you are also able to do that as well too. But I just wanted to plug that resource in for you all as well too. And with that, thank you all for your time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see all your questions in the chat.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kayla. And this is the time where you can unmute yourselves. We will take a look at any questions in the chat and give you a minute to type those up. And just want to take this moment to say thank you again for your participation in our training today. Perfect. All right. So just a few things before anyone does need to head off to their next thing for today. We just want to say thank you again for attending this training, but also any of the trainings prior to. As we said, this is the final training in our series for this year. That recording will be on the Midlands Gives website. And we do want to remind you that early giving starts today. So we hope that there are donations coming in. And just again, a reminder to please utilize those resources that you have found within the Midlands Give site. So look at that nonprofit toolkit and of course, go through any of those previous recordings of those trainings. All right. Thank y'all so much for
Thank
what
you
you do
all.
and take care. Thank
Yes,
you again,
thank you
Kayla,
all.
for
Yeah,
presenting.
I hope this was helpful to everyone. Thank you so much.